billionaires, UN agency are the world's richest people? The list includes scientists. UN agency helps to fund the fight against COVID-19. Ramintalayi Getty footage. Bill Gates primarily based Microsoft once he was merely 19. Bill Gates, one of the world's richest men, has said he warned Donald Trump relating to the threat of a worldwide pandemic throughout a 2016 meeting with the American president-elect in Trump Tower. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has spent several ample greenbacks to hunt out faster ways during which to develop vaccines and build disease tracking systems, but Gates still has regrets. The Microsoft founder-turned-donor told the Wall Street Journal, "Looking back, I had done loads to indicate to the danger." Gates was criticized by Trump supporters in April once attacking the president's decision to slash UN agency funding on Twitter. Halting funding for the World Health Organization throughout a world health crisis is as dangerous as a result of it sounds, he said. While Bill and Melinda have pledged to administer most of their $100 billion-plus fortune to charity, for presently the Microsoft founder remains one of the richest people at intervals the globe. Here as UN agency joins him at intervals the exclusive club. 1. Jeff Bezos, $145 billion. The former hedge fund manager turned online book trafficker started Amazon in his garage in 1994. Bezos has invested heavily in house technology and together owns the Washington Post newspaper. 2. Bill Gates, $106.6 billion. A permanent fixture at the very best end of Forbes list for the past 20 years. The Microsoft founder has sold out or given away exuberant of his stake at intervals the corporate. He owns merely one Chronicles of Microsoft, and presently focuses predominantly on his philanthropic work. Bill Murray awarded Prime Humor Prize 3. Biologist Arnault, $91.6 billion. Arnault is the wealthiest European on the list. The French person oversees associate degree empire of quite 60 brands alongside Joseph Louis Barreau Vuitton and Sephora. And he recently overtook scientists to become the second richest man on the world. 4. Mark Zuckerberg, $78.6 billion. Zuckerberg magnificently started Facebook in 2004 at the age of 19 and currently can be among the very best 5 richest men at intervals the globe. 5. Warren Buffett, $68.8 billion. Now in his 9th decade, the County Anne Hathaway chief government, known as the Oracle of Omaha, is one of the 4 most productive investors of all time. Like Gates, he has pledged to administer away quite 9 of his fortune to charity. 6. Larry Ryder, $67.3 billion. Co-founder of code firm Oracle, Ryder stepped down as chief executive officer in 2014, but still is chairman of the board and chief technology officer. 7. Steve Ballmer, $66.4 billion. The former Microsoft chief executive officer semiconductor devised the company from 2000 to 2014 once association in 1980 as employee very 30. Having born out of Stanford University's Master in Business Administration program. And identical year he retired from Microsoft he bought then was Clippers for $2 billion, says Forbes. 8. Larry Page, $63.3 billion. In 1998, Page co-founded Google with business partner Sergey Brin. He stepped down as chief executive officer of Alphabet, Google's parent company, in DEC last year but remains a member. 9. Amacio statesman, $61.9 billion. Ortega stepped down as chairman of Inditex, celebrated for its Zara Complete, in 2011, but he still owns nearly half of its shares. 10. Sergey Brin, $61 billion. The Google co-founder stepped down as president of Alphabet and DEC, though remains a member. He spent heaps of some time on Alphabet's Moonshot Research Lab X, for a roundup of the 4 most necessary stories from around the world in an elliptical, refreshing and balanced fight the week's news. For a roundup of the 4 most necessary For a roundup of the 4 most necessary stories from around the world in an elliptical, refreshing and balanced Fight the Week's news agenda, try The Week magazine. Begin your trial subscription of late. What relating to the UK? James Ratcliffe, the founder, chairman and majority owner of chemical powerhouse and is that the richest person at intervals the UK, to keep with Forbes. Ratcliffe was raised during a very Manchester council house, and has climbed the chemical company ladder to amass a non-public worth of $13.9 billion. Shortly behind him at intervals the UK are the tycoons Srikanth and Gopichandh Hinduya brothers, UN agency management the Hinduya cluster conglomerate, and are worth $12.4 billion combined. The Hinduya cluster could also be a non-public corporation originally primarily based in urban centre in 1914, and presently has interests around the world alongside in oil and gas, banking, IT and property. The BBC Extra. The richest girl at intervals the UK is Denise Coates, the founder and joint chief government of online gambling company Bet365. She is worth $7.7 billion, making her the 220th richest person at intervals the globe. Who is that the richest person of all time? Bezos has been declared not exclusively the wealthiest person alive but of all time. But whereas his estimated fortune is technically the 4 most vital ever accumulated by one individual, this does not take into thought inflation or a form of different factors. Alongside, but wealth is really measured. With a fortune of around $400 billion, Mansu genus 1 in all male, the first king of city, may not be a unit name, but by most estimates is that the richest one that ever lived. Deriving his wealth from his country's large salt and gold deposits, that at one time accounted for 0.5 the world's supply. Genus dominated West Africa's Malian Empire at intervals the first ordinal century, constructing several mosques across the continent, many of that survive to the present day. With a fortune estimated at between $300–400 billion in today's money, monarch Nikolai Alexandrovich royalty Nicholas II of Russia was kicked out and afterwards dead by the Bolsheviks at intervals the aftermath of the Russian Revolution. The freelance notes that, following his canonization by the Russian Orthodox Church, he's conjointly the richest saint in history. Excluding kings, princes and people UN agency familial their wealth, the list of the world's richest ever men, and that they square measure perpetually men, is dominated by the supposed thief barons of 19th and early 20th century America. Often cited because the richest one who ever lived, business leader John D. Rockefeller was the primary person to own an internet value of over $1 billion within the cash of the time. At the time of this death his estate was value associate degree calculable $340 billion in today's cash, nearly 2 of total U.S. economic output. With associate degree calculable fortune of $310 billion in today's cash, steel mogul and John D. Rockefeller up-to-date industrialist oversubscribed this Carnegie Company to J.P. Morgan for $480 million in 1901. And later created his name together with his philanthropic donations. Automobile pioneer industrialist, UN agency formed the assembly line and has become a byword for Yank entrepreneurship, had a fortune of around $199 billion at the time of his death in 1947. For epigrammatic, refreshing.